This is FARFETCH Threads, our people podcast, where you can hear the real stories about life as a Farfetcher.
Hello and welcome to FARFETCH Threads, our people podcast. I'm Anthony Denaro, Senior Office Manager in FARFETCH's LA office. I oversee the office management function and employee experience function here in FARFETCH North America. In my role, I've overseen office build-outs comprising of the physical space that FARFETCHers work within, but then also the cultural space that we work within as well. I oversee events and employee well-being, all the things that kind of connect people within our spaces and away from our spaces. So today I'm talking with Sandrine and Anna about wellness at FARFETCH. I'll kick it over to them to introduce themselves, starting with Sandrine.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. So hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today. So I'm Sandrine. I am the Exec VP of Store of the Future at FARFETCH, which is our new retail division. So looking at what are the next year to come in retail within the company. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about well-being. Obviously means a great deal for me, well-being, and I've been starting to really think about that for my personal health about 3 years ago, and more recently through the pandemic about a year ago when we started to all live lockdowns and this pandemic more personally. So that's me.
Hi, Sandrine and Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here today with you. So I'm an Sousa VP of People Strategy. I'm based in Portugal. I joined FARFETCH nearly 7 years ago to lead the people team in Portugal when we were around 250 employees globally. Now I also belong to the people strategy leadership. I'm contributing to foster our mission, that is Happy People Revolution. And my educational background is in clinical psychology, and I'm a big enthusiast of understanding how emotions, our way of thinking, and how our behavior are linked. As human beings, we are a box of surprises, so it's incredible to discover what makes people tick.
Cool. Thank you very much, guys. I'm really excited to be here talking with you both about wellness at FARFETCH. It's definitely been a challenging time over the last 12 months as we look back at the different unique phases of quarantine and the pandemic. So we wanted to talk about why you think well-being is more important than ever. So starting with you, Sandrine, what do you think about that?
So I guess, there is the personal view and the manager view, or the sort of kind of, especially as a leader. I think, first of all, for me, it's really important to really be true to yourself in your leadership on well-being, and to really realize that it's important to really reflect on how you feel, how you are, and to show that sense of empathy. I think that's really important, because within that, people reflect to that, see themselves into yourself, and open. And I think that's actually something I learned a lot this year throughout this period of challenges we had. I think the other thing as well is if you think well-being as a manager is important, just be a role model, right? If you think you need to give time for people to think, to relax, to kind of just switch off from work, do the same, because you're the one which is actually leading by example. And I think it's really, really important. That is also showing from the top. So I think as part of my exec peers, we have been talking a lot about that. So how we can be role models, so people look in us and think, okay, if they can do it, then why don't we? And I think that's actually a very important part of what we've been reflecting on. And finally, I think if you do that, if you show that sense of empathy, and if you are starting to really lead from the top and be that role model, I think that's how you empower people. And I guess, the big challenge we had is how people can really take that personally for themselves and start to do it themselves. So I think for me, this is the three things I think it's important. The more we give people space to think about themselves and to be empowered to think about themselves, the best they will do a great job, and they will be happy FARFETCHers and contribute to Hannah's happy revolution.
I think that's a great way to summarize it. And like looking back, at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to work really quickly and adapt our ways of working as the majority of our people started to work from home and to keep them working. Like I think about in my role, the things we had to do just from a facility standpoint to get people up and running at from working from home. But Anna, what do you see as how we adapted as a business to getting people working from home and being settled and happy in their roles away from the offices and facilities?
Yeah, actually, it was not easy, but because we have offices in different regions, we're starting to observe different phases. So it first started a lockdown in APAC, Middle East, and Russia, and we're starting to learn from that. So when the pandemic arrived in the West, we immediately started to run a crisis committee every day and in all the regions, and starting to understand the impact of it. In Portugal, where we have almost 3,000 people, for instance, and we kept the creative ops office open, we needed to be really careful. So alongside with the business, with our nurse, with our health and safety team, and also with the office management, we're starting to build a strong plan to protect our people, because the safety of our people was our focus since the day number one. So, and it was really important, so people could feel safe. And then actually our adaptation to was quick and fictionless, largely because we were already a company where remote work was there even before the pandemic. So there was a need of some tweaks, but even some areas that apparently was not so common to be remote, such as customer service, we quickly created all the conditions so the employees could also perform remotely. And another thing that was really great was we launched this FARFETCH Live. So every week we were having the opportunity to connect to execs. So execs were investing their time to speak to people, and people really felt that we were creating this community, and all of us were there together.
Yeah, I think a lot of great stuff came from our response, and for everyone listening, just Anna had mentioned FARFETCH Live, and I think what you don't capture from that is that there's an exclamation point at the end of FARFETCH Live, and it was like a really great, entertaining weekly meetings that are continuing with some really great, funny content that came from.
Actually, I think, Anthony, on that, just to build up on what Anna was saying, I think what was amazing with FARFETCH Live is it just became very natural to do those events on a fortnightly basis. I think we do it. Like it was just like that sort of sense of community as FARFETCH getting together, and I just think the sort of kind of spontaneity of those events were great.
And it is also linked to what you were mentioning, Sandrine, about this authenticity that is so important. And actually, our execs and our people were opening their doors from their home and trying to be normal human beings.
Exactly.
It really broke down the walls, I think, and just humanized our execs. And like, I think, everyone who's worked directly with our executive team knows that everyone's people here. And I think it showed everyone at FARFETCH just that we're all people, we're all going through the same thing, and really started to, for me, it felt like being able to connect with them on a much more authentic and human level. So Anna, what do you think went well, and what do you think could have gone better?
It's not an easy question, but we are constantly evolving our approach. So there is one thing that we bear in mind, that is our company values, and having this in the center of our decisions and having our people in front of our mind. We did, and we still do, our best to support our people while ourselves are living through this turmoil ourselves. But at the same time, it's a great opportunity to see our values flourishing, especially the Be Human and Todos Juntos in this time. And that means respecting one another and being connected to our colleagues, supporting each other. And I think that this is not just the people team mission and our manager's mission. It's up to all of us to protect our people and bring ideas to be implemented. I can share some good things that happen, and I think that is creating a good momentum to our people. So we created a set of guidelines of work that we call Making Work for You, which means that we are being more flexible about working hours, and we are also encouraging our people to take time to connect to themselves, to their family, to practice yoga or mindfulness. So we also have psychologists and nurses working with us in some regions. So we are still open to hear our people. This is the only way that we be able to evolve and minimizing the impact of this pandemic in our people. So this is a never-end story. So I think that we are continuous on this journey.
I think what well-being means for me is very different what it means for the three of you, right? And I think what we have to understand is how we make sure with what we do, we have a sort of kind of a global view on looking at well-being, but then actually a very individual view on how people take that. I mean, we talked a lot about be global and be local. It's definitely a point on that. And I think, we had some examples around, like the different regions, right? But I was thinking even more, I think, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Is every individual has to think about what well-being means. And actually an example could be that when your well-being, for example, could be that you just love working so hard because this is how you just want to find a sense of purpose for work. And the more you work and the more you're excited about it. And that people are like that. Just people are just like that. And people love their work, but at some point they need to step back. And I think, it depends really on... It really depends, I think, on individual and how they interpret well-being. And the other thing as well, thinking as well, is when you think about well-being is not about well-doing. And sometimes we do, because at FARFETCH we execute. And at some point we have to say, okay, it's not about doing, it's about being for once. And I think I realized that, I don't know, like really recently, maybe that doesn't sound for you guys, sounds like a revolution, but for me it is. And I think trying to define what do you want to be versus what you want to do, it's actually very important. So yeah, I think that's that was one of the comments I just wanted to add on what you said, Anna.
Hey Sandrine, I think that's a really good point. This idea of well-being versus well-doing. Having a job to go to every day gives a sense of purpose. Having my job at FARFETCH during the pandemic gave me this purpose of confronting all the challenges of work from home and adjusting our employee culture. It just gave me a good sense of purpose. And when put into balance with taking time for myself, this balance kept me in a good state of mind.
Exactly. Yeah. And the impact, right? The impact you have. And I think this is why, Anthony, that's this whole concept of, when we talked a lot, we've done a lot, so much work around diversity and inclusion. And I think the sense of purpose as an organization, how can we build an organization, our organization, to have a better future for our people, for consumers, for the society? I think there is something that will actually is going to get out through all the work like Anna you're going to lead. I think that's going to be really well connected as an interesting part to actually our corporate vision as we grow. Because ultimately, right, if you work and spend 10 hours in front of the computer, you want to think that what you're doing is going to help someone or is going to do something good, right?
So what have you seen and what the things that FARFETCH has done to actually support people, their well-being and their well-doing during the time? What are some of those initiatives or campaigns that we've done that have really stood out for you?
For me, right, for what we've done? Yeah, I think what was amazing, first of all, is when we set up this kind of cross-functional group back during the pandemic. I think it was just really amazing to see like all of the people wanted to support were actually coming from all of the different practice and all of the different countries. And they were not a sense of, I want to be seen to be kind of great. They were just having this motivation to help FARFETCHers. And I think for me, it was usually, I was very touched by that. In terms of we've done a lot, right? We've done a lot of global activities from all of the Caring Initiative and Caring Plus, where we transformed the Give Back Days to Caring Days, where you can actually take time for yourself to look after your loved ones or to look after yours. I think this is actually just a really it was really innovative and a really brilliant initiative from the team. I think we also really have much more kind of local impact with our wellbeing guardians. I think they've been quite active in different countries, really playing the role of really sponsoring and actually talking about wellbeing. We also launched Unmind in globally as a tool to really support on mental health. and disconnect people. So yeah, I think there is a lot of great stuff, and obviously you mentioned that, Anna, around working, flexible working, right, which I think is important. I guess the question is, we need people, again, back to my point about being a role model, we need to make people to really work flexibly. And I think sometimes we say it, but I need to distill more in the organization. And I think this is a 2021 challenge.
Yeah, and I think there's for us, some of the initiatives that we put out, like we started giving people a wellness stipend. We had been giving people money for gym or for courses, for classes, and we opened up the eligibility for that to use for anything that would improve your wellness. We also helped people just understand how that they could use their PTO. And again, it's like taking that time for yourself. Sometimes just like taking time off and sitting at home because there's nothing else to do. You can't go on vacation. You can't go out. So we're telling people, like, close your laptop, clean off your table, just hide all your work stuff so that you get that mental break from seeing the things that remind you from work. Like when you do take PTO and there's nothing else to do, like sit there and like put your laptop away, then binge a movie or a TV show just to really feel like you disconnect. Or if you are going to take a day off, like uninstall Slack, uninstall your email app from your phone so that you aren't getting those notifications and those reminders from work. And again, like Farfetchers are a really hard working group of people. So I think a lot of times, even when people were taking this time off, there was still this like, oh, I need to check my phone. And from our local management up to our global management, it's like there's this understanding now that like, no, you don't have to be online all the time. Like actually unplugging in so many ways is so important right now. So Anna, what do you think in the long term? How are we planning to keep well-being at the forefront of the people team strategy?
Yeah, actually, well-being is a key pillar for us, and now more than ever, our focus is to build a place where our people can feel that they can thrive and talk openly about what is blocking them from progressing. And this employee experience is becoming more and more the human experience. So people need meaning, as we were talking before. So this meaning, trust, and this sense of belonging. So because of that, we are currently looking for a global head of well-being. And we are in the early stages of building a comprehensive strategy. So we have so much in place right now, but it is time to set up a unique narrative in regards of well-being. So we are also having open dialogues with the business and our communities to make sure that we are focusing on the right topics. Because when we are talking about well-being, we need to consider different dimensions that are not just only related with mental health. That usually is what we when we think about well-being, is the first thing that comes to our mind. But ultimately, we can cover of our emotional resilience. And we need to have this in our mind, because this emotional resilience actually can promote our emotional health. So the first thing that we would like to put in place soon is a longitudinal study to be our baseline to sustain our intervention. So we need to understand exactly what is our people feeling, so then we can create a better intervention. However, we need to be mindful that we are not solving every personal issue. So when we're talking about well-being, now is a hot topic and everyone wants to jump in and think that's okay. And there's an opinion about it, but we need to make sure that that it's impossible to solve everything. So our aim is to support our people and create a better context where they don't feel guilty with their work-life balance. So it's really important that we're saying though. So if we close or we switch off our computer, let's not be guilty that we have work, because next day we have more work to do. And it is really important to create this work-life balance.
Yeah, there's always going to be more, right? And I think that idea of like...
Sure, tomorrow we have more work to do.
There will always be. That's the nature of our business, right? It's how you cope with it, which is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always something coming through. That brings into this idea about digital fatigue. And like, it's funny, like, what is it, 11 months ago, this idea of like blue jeans or Zoom fatigue wasn't anything anybody had ever thought about before. And now here we are, where you look at your laptop and you're like, God, I'll open Blue Jeans or Google Meets for another meeting. So Sandrine, how do you think that this can be tackled going forward?
So I think, when this is the digital fatigue is probably the consequence of a lot of things we do, right? So it's back to, I think, what I was saying before. First of all, is as leaders at FARFETCH, all of us, how we can just make sure we are planning that for ourselves, so we can see that at being able to say no when we have to say no, and be role modeled in how we look at ourselves and our well-being. I think that the first thing that needs to be tackled, because then it will fall down into the organization. I think the second thing is, as you said, Anna, is we're providing the teams with tools, with time for them to have some space for themselves, space to think, space to reflect. I think that's really important, that sense of having space. So that's great we're doing that, because that will enable them to really take that on themselves. I think it's important. We are doing a lot of things on encouraging to exercise, and the importance of meditation in some case, or the importance of going out, of doing a walk, or working at meetings. All of those things are really important, because it helps people to switch off their mindset. And this is back to the point of well-being is very personal. So I think this is another thing that needs to be considered as well, is that what works for one person might not work for another one, and is that flexibility, listening to people, that will actually make our strategy really powerful at FARFETCH. And I think, to conclude, I think back to your point, Anna, I think FARFETCH as a company cannot solve well-being problems for individuals. We can't, right? This is not what we are in for. We need to allow people to blossom, allow people to reflect on themselves, and because it's much bigger than just actually your work. It's who you are. It's back to the front of who you want to be. So I think also empowering those people and our FARFETCHers to be able to think like that and to reflect on them will make our well-being impact much stronger and more powerful.
That brings up a bigger idea about this idea of mental health across our entire population. According to Unmind, our meditation app, 1 in 6 employees will experience mental health issues this year. But by proactively focusing on the 6 in 6, we can prevent these problems before they arise. How can we encourage everyone to think about mental health more and feel more comfortable both in and out of the workplace?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, I think that the baseline is fundamental to build a safe environment where people can feel supported and be listened without that sentiment of being judged. Because for a long time, we didn't open, or people have not started open dialogues about mental health with the fear of being judged. The pandemic brought to the surface how vulnerable we are as human beings, and discussions around mental health are now, I guess, in the agenda of many companies now. So if you can think about one positive thing, is people starting to talk more openly about mental health. I think that we should encourage our people to speak up, and of course not to punish them if they speak up. I guess that it is a journey that will take some time, but we need to do the first step. And I think that at FARFETCH, we already started this journey. So we already starting this first step.
I think, if you think about 3 words, right? It is about understanding and listening, showing empathy, and be flexible. People will feel safe if they feel like they can be listened to, they can be understood, if they don't feel judged, as you said. And then, and from that, then there is that flexibility of what we are giving them. And I think for me, what was really interesting about that is when you are able to say to your team or to people, well, me as a leader, I also struggle sometimes. And it's okay. We all do. And these things, like from a management standpoint, just matter so much. I think in terms of how people recognize what you are as a senior leader going through, they recognize you. They recognize they go through the same thing. And I think that creates a sense of, okay, I can do the same. I'm okay if I'm not doing everything because I don't cope with it today. So I think this is what we have also to write, and you write in terms of the management skills that we are giving to our leaders is also something we have to to help them, I think, as we grow our leaders and our workforce.
So a great example of that is the shift in the manager to employee relationship, and we're being more honest about talking about mental health. So I've seen it with how I work with my team and how I work with my manager. As an example, last week, it was a Thursday, it was gloomy outside, it was raining outside, and I just woke up feeling like I couldn't sit at my table all day checking emails and being on calls. I knew I just needed a day to sit around and do nothing. So I talked to my manager. I said, look, I just don't feel it today. And I was just honest about needing a mental health day. And that day, I just sat in my kitchen and I did a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle all day. I feel like a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I used to have the sense of guilt about calling out when there was work to be done at work. But there's definitely been a shift in honesty about mental health and its importance at FARFETCH over the last year.
Well, it's be human, right? It's be human. That's what we are. We're not a machine. We're not.
Yeah, and it goes so many different ways. It isn't just being human in one way. It goes up and down and sideways, and it just gets applied in so many different situations. So I wanted to just kind of open this up now to share some tips about looking after your mental health. I wanted to share one thing that I do that has actually really helped me. It's a very small thing, but I've learned that giving myself things to look forward to from day to day, week to week, month to month is really important. And as much as long-term goals are really important, I get a huge mental health boost just from short-term things. So on every Thursday, I walk from my house to Little Tokyo in downtown LA to get ramen, to get a bowl of ramen. And I look forward to this. I don't allow myself to do this earlier in the week. I don't allow myself to do it later in the week. Thursday is the day that I go to Little Tokyo to get ramen, and it's something to look forward to, and it's been a huge boost for me. So I wanted to open it up to you guys, Sandrine and Anna, about some of the things that you're doing, both in terms of long and short-term things that are helping improve your mental health.
Yeah, sure. I can start if you want, Anna. So yeah, I think for me, what I've done, which I was not used to do as much, is really trying every morning to exercise. I wasn't used to do that before. And I just love it. I mean, I have this app, which is a crazy app where you just jump up and down. And I did it. I was doing it in the garden when it was sunny, and now obviously inside because it's a bit early in the morning. But it just sets me such a great vibe for my day, and I love it because you can see the points. So every morning, the competitive side of me, I was okay, I want to do more points, although I'm not really good. And you can join this virtual class, which is also quite funny to see where you are finishing on the leading board, as they call it. So this is something I really have enjoyed. And it just really cheered me up. And the other thing as well, I'm a bit like you, Anthony. I need to have things exciting in my head. I need to plan for things exciting. So right now, I am actually devastated that I can't go skiing because I love skiing. This is a part of who I am. I just ski. I love skiing. And we do as a family, obviously with four boys. I mean, they all love it. So we can't go, obviously, now. So we were really down, we all were down. So now I'm thinking, okay, maybe we can go in April, or maybe we will actually try to go in the mountains in June because it will be open again, hopefully. So we try always to look forward to that. And also, I think what has been quite good, though, for this pandemic is I've been much closer to the kids. I think in seeing them more often. I think that's been great. Doing more quality time with them has been actually a really good piece.
Nana, what about you?
Yeah, actually, I think that I started to run. So I have two things. One, I started to run, and I'm preparing myself to run the half marathon. So I hope to do this after. I'm almost there. And second, I love dogs, so maybe you can hear her. And I finally had the right context to adopt one, and I have a lovely one named Rusty, 9 months old. And actually, she's helping me a lot setting up routines, and is also great because she can help me to switch off because I need to care offer, so I need to have time. So I can switch off from this digital fatigue. So I'm protecting she's protecting my mental health. I really believe that when we set up routines, we can help our brain to have a meaning or have a purpose. So this is giving us the right amount of energy to face the day.
Yeah, that's so true. And actually something I was thinking also, I forgot to say that, but within your day, think about the positive things. Like think about, okay, this is a positive thing and that makes you happy and that makes you going. I mean, now, my positive thing in the UK is the fact that now, like the light in the evening is longer, like the day are longer, and I feel good about it. And every day I look at my window, it's not 4:30, it's dark, it's 5. Yes, victory. And tomorrow will be 5:05. And this is positive thinking, right? So those little victory, I think, just count a lot on how you also think yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Like where it's those time scales have changed so much of like what you actually look forward to, or like what is those positive things that you can actually to look forward to. It was really great talking to you, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you never miss an episode of FARFETCH Threads by subscribing to our Spotify and FARFETCH People YouTube channel. If you're ready to do what's never been done, visit farfetchcareers.com.